Samuel is a figure who, in the Hebrew Bible, plays a key role in the transition from the biblical judges to the United Kingdom of Israel under Saul, and again in the monarchy's transition from Saul to David. He is venerated as a prophet in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In addition to his role in the Bible, Samuel is mentioned in Jewish rabbinical literature, in the Christian New Testament, and in the second chapter of the Quran. He is also treated in the 5th through 7th books of Antiquities of the Jews, written by the Jewish scholar Josephus in the 1st century. He is first called the seer in 1 Samuel 9 verse 9. Samuel's mother was Hannah, and his father was Elkanah. Elkanah lived at Ramathaim in the district of Zuph. His genealogy is also found in a pedigree of the Kohathites, 1 Chronicles 6 verse 3 through to 15, and in that of Heman the Ezrahite, apparently his grandson, 1 Chronicles 6 verse 18 through to 33. According to the genealogical tables and chronicles, Elkanah was a Levite, a fact not mentioned in the books of Samuel. The fact that Elkanah, a Levite, was denominated an Ephraimite, 6, is analogous to the designation of a Levite belonging to Judah, Judges 17 verse 7. According to 1 Samuel 1 verse 1 through to 28, Elkanah had 2 wives, Peninnah and Hannah. Peninnah had children. Hannah did not. Nonetheless, Elkanah favored Hannah. Jealous, Peninnah reproached Hannah for her lack of children, causing Hannah much heartache. Elkanah was a devout man and would periodically take his family on pilgrimage to the holy site of Shiloh. On one occasion, Hannah went to the sanctuary and prayed for a child. In tears, she vowed that if she were granted a child, she would dedicate him to God as a Nazirite. Eli, who was sitting at the foot of the doorpost in the sanctuary at Shiloh, saw her apparently mumbling to herself and thought she was drunk, but was soon assured of both her motivation and sobriety. Eli was the priest of Shiloh, and one of the last Israelite judges before the rule of kings in ancient Israel. He had assumed the leadership after Samson's death. Eli blessed her, and she returned home. Subsequently, Hannah became pregnant, later giving birth to Samuel, and praised God for his mercy and faithfulness. After the child was weaned, she left him in Eli's care, and from time to time she would come to visit her son. According to 1 Samuel 1 verse 20, Hannah named Samuel to commemorate her prayer to God for a child. She called his name Samuel, saying, "Because I have asked him of the Lord." From its appearance, the name Samuel, ML, appears to be constructed from the Hebrew Samuel, meaning God has set or God has placed. This meaning relating to the idea of God placing a child in the womb, alongside Hannah dedicating Samuel as a Nazirite to God. The Hebrew Samu is also related to the Akkadian Samu, which shares the same meaning. From the explanation given in 1 Samuel 1 verse 20, however, it would seem to come from a contraction of the Hebrew Tiberian, meaning, I have asked borrowed him from God, further shortened to Salmuel, asked borrowed from God, then finally contracted to Samuel. This meaning also relating to Hannah dedicating Samuel as a Nazirite to God as well. Samuel worked under Eli in the service of the shrine at Shiloh. One night, Samuel heard a voice calling his name. Samuel was 12 years old. Samuel initially assumed it was coming from Eli, and went to Eli to ask what he wanted. Eli, however, sent Samuel back to sleep. After this happened 3 times, Eli realized that the voice was the Lord's and instructed Samuel on how to answer. If he calls you, then you must say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." Once Samuel responded, the Lord told him that the wickedness of the sons of Eli had resulted in their dynasty being condemned to destruction. In the morning, Samuel was hesitant about reporting the message to Eli, but Eli asked him to honestly recount to him what he had been told by the Lord. Upon receiving the communication, Eli merely said that the Lord should do what seems right unto him. Samuel grew up, and all Israel from Dan to Beersheba came to know that Samuel was a trustworthy prophet of the Lord. Anglican theologian Donald Spence Jones comments that the minds of all the people were thus gradually prepared when the right moment came to acknowledge Samuel as a God-sent chieftain. During Samuel's youth at Shiloh, the Philistines inflicted a decisive defeat against the Israelites at Ebenezer, placed the land under Philistine control, and took the sanctuary's ark for themselves. Upon hearing the news of the capture of the Ark of the Covenant and the death of his sons, Eli collapsed and died. When the Philistines had been in possession of the ark for 7 months and had been visited with calamities and misfortunes, they decided to return the ark to the Israelites. Samuel was a key figure in keeping the Israelites' religious heritage and identity alive during Israel's defeat and occupation by the Philistines. It may have been possible and necessary for Samuel to exercise authority in roles that would normally not converge in a single individual: priest, prophet, judge. After 20 years of oppression, Samuel, who had gained national prominence as a prophet, 1 Samuel 3 verse 20, summoned the people to the hill of Mizpah and led them against the Philistines. The Philistines, having marched to Mizpah to attack the newly amassed Israelite army, were soundly defeated and fled in terror. The retreating Philistines were slaughtered by the Israelites. The text then states that Samuel erected a large stone at the battle site as a memorial, and there ensued a long period of peace thereafter. Samuel initially appointed his 2 sons Joel and Abijah as his successors. However, just like Eli's sons, Samuel's proved unworthy, for they accepted bribes and perverted judgment. The Israelites rejected them. Because of the external threat from other tribes, such as the Philistines, the tribal leaders decided that there was a need for a more unified, central government and demanded Samuel appoint a king so that they could be like other nations. Samuel interpreted this as a personal rejection and at first was reluctant to oblige, until reassured by a divine revelation. He warned the people of the potential negative consequences of such a decision. When Saul and his servant were searching for his father's lost donkeys, the servant suggested consulting the nearby Samuel. Samuel recognized Saul as the future king. Just before his retirement, Samuel gathered the people to an assembly at Gilgal and delivered a farewell speech or coronation speech in which he emphasized how prophets and judges were more important than kings, that kings should be held to account, and that the people should not fall into idol worship or worship of Asherah or of Baal. Samuel promised that God would subject the people to foreign invaders should they disobey. 1 Kings 11 verse 5, 33, and 2 Kings 23 verse 13 note that the Israelites fell into Asherah worship later on. When Saul was preparing to fight the Philistines, Samuel denounced him for proceeding with the pre-battle sacrifice without waiting for the overdue Samuel to arrive. He prophesied that Saul's rule would see no dynastic succession. Samuel also directed Saul to utterly destroy the Amalekites in fulfillment of the commandment in Deuteronomy 25 verse 17 through to 19. When the Lord your God has given you rest from your enemies all around, in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance, you will blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. During the campaign against the Amalekites, King Saul spared Agag, the king of the Amalekites, and the best of their livestock. Saul told Samuel that he had spared the choicest of the Amalekites' sheep and oxen, intending to sacrifice the livestock to the Lord. This was in violation of the Lord's command, as pronounced by Samuel, to utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. 1 Samuel 15 verse 3. Samuel confronted Saul for his disobedience and told him that God made him king, and God can unmake him king. Samuel then proceeded to execute Agag. Saul never saw Samuel alive again after this. Samuel then proceeded to Bethlehem and secretly anointed David as king. He would later provide sanctuary for David when the jealous Saul first tried to have him killed. Samuel is described in the biblical narrative as being buried in Ramah. According to tradition, this burial place has been identified with Samuel's tomb in the West Bank village of Nabi Samuel. Sometime after his death, Saul had the witch of Endor conjure Samuel's spirit from Sheol in order to predict the result of an upcoming battle. 1 Samuel 28 verse 3 through to 24. Samuel was angered by his recalling and told Saul that the Lord had left him.